So let's say you get a hole in a piece of clothing, like I do because my line of work is not exactly cushy. How do you fix it?
How do?
Things you are going to need: thread, needle, pins, and of course, the clothing in question.
Lay out the clothing that you are going to stitch up and make sure that it is turned inside out. Take your thread and unravel double the length of your stitching path. You'll see why for all this in a bit. Cut the thread at the spindle, and now it's time for the most difficult part of the whole shebang: threading the needle. Hold the thread close to the end, and hold it close to the eye of the needle. Slowly and gently try to feed the thread through the eye. The thread will most likely fight back a little by bending, sliding, generally not going through, and by being a pain in the ass. However, with enough gumption and a steady hand, you can do it.
I don't know how I got it that quickly, but I just managed that. That is awesome.
Now take the two ends of your thread and tie them into a square knot. Tie another square knot over top of your first one for extra thread security. If you'd like, do a third. Now pull the knot and needle so that the needle is at the opposite end of your thread loop. Take some of your pins and push them through your fabric so that it holds the target area closed. I used a small piece of extra fabric for reinforcement. Begin stitching by pushing your needle through the fabric and pulling it out the other side until the thread's knot hits where you pushed the needle through. Then take your needle and push it back up through the fabric the other way and slightly along your stitching path until you cannot pull the needle up and out anymore. As you stitch along your path, you will run into the pins you put through your fabric. Take the pins out as your stitching reaches them. Continue following your stitching path, making sure that your needle goes through all parts of the fabric needed to hold it together. Once you've gotten to the end of your stitching path, a common practice is to stitch backwards for an inch or two back over your path for extra security. There are many different kinds of stitches. The one that I used for this video is a standard segmented line style, where the thread goes into and out of the fabric in a straight line. You could also use a slanted angle style, or an alternating angle style, or even make your own if you fancy. Once the stitching is complete, cut off the needle from the thread and tie the threads into a couple square knots, or maybe 3 for extra security. That's why we doubled up the thread, so you could tie it up. If your start point meets up with your end point, you can even tie those ends of the thread together for one solid loop. Make sure all of your pins are out and that the thread is secure. Turn your fabric right side out again and survey your work. See, turning it inside out hides the knots and folds. If it holds well, then congratulations, you've saved yourself a trip to the clothing store.
Pretty nice.